Hi, and welcome to the Dynamic Duel podcast, a weekly show where we review superhero films and debate the superiority between Marvel and DC by comparing their characters in stat-based battle simulations. I'm Marvelous Joe.
And I'm his twin brother, Johnny DC.
And in this episode, we are going to find out who would win in a fight between Aqualad, who is Aquaman's sidekick, and Shuri, who is Black Panther's sister. Now, we kind of did a similar thematic duel matchup between Black Manta and Black Panther like years ago. Both of these characters are within the same family.
Right, because Aqualad is Black Manta's son.
Right, but we're dealing with very different power sets here, so it should be interesting. We're going to put their stats into a Monte Carlo simulation and find out mathematically which character would win after breaking down their histories and abilities. Before we get into the fight, we're going to break down the comic book movie news to have come out in the past week, including the news that Warner Brothers Discovery may not find a studio head for DC ahead of its likely future deal with NBCUniversal. So it's kind of businessy, but we're going to try to break it down, make it clear what's going on. It should be an interesting couple of years coming up.
Yeah, we don't really cover the business angle too often, but it's been a slow news week, and this is interesting to talk about.
Yep. As always, we list our segment times in our episode description, so feel free to check out the show notes if you want to skip ahead to a particular topic. And don't forget, guys, to join us on Patreon, where we not only offer ad-free episodes of the show, you also get bonus content every month, including top 10 episodes. We also give you access to our Discord chat server, where you can chat with Jonathan and I and other fans of the show. Check it out right after this episode at patreon.com/dynamicduel, which is linked in our show notes. We have 2 tiers. Our lowest tier is only $2 a month.
And for $10, you could become an executive producer of this show and help us determine our episode content.
Yeah, it was actually our executive producers who helped us come up with this battle, which is in lead up to our next episode, which is the big 300. It's our 300th episode. Holy shit.
Holy crap.
And in that episode, we're going to find out who would win between Young Justice and the Young Avengers. It's all because our executive producers voted on that team battle. So there you go. If you want that kind of power, become an executive producer of this show. But with that out of the way,
quick to the No Prize. A No Prize is an award that Marvel used to give out up until the 90s to fans. Our version, the Dynamic Duel No Prize, is a digital award that we post on Instagram for the person that we feel gave the best answer to our question of the week. Last week's question was, what DC or Marvel film deserves a sequel that never got one, and why? And of course, this tied into the news that Constantine will be getting a sequel starring Keanu Reeves and directed by Francis Lawrence.
Yeah, that was probably the best answer that people could have given prior to last week's news, but we got some other great answers. Let's go ahead and listen to our honorable mentions as well as the No Prize winner. Our first honorable mention goes to Jacob Bell, who said,
"Hey, what's up, guys? Jacob Bell here. I think The Incredible Hulk should have gotten a sequel. Hulk is my favorite Marvel character. And I think as far as characterization and storylines, he's definitely on par with the big 3. I know that he couldn't get a sequel because of the Universal stuff and that whole thing, but I still think he definitely deserves one, whether it's Ed Norton or Mark Ruffalo. I'm good with either one. I think they're both great, and so I just think he should have gotten a sequel. So Incredible Hulk 2.
Now, The Incredible Hulk itself was kind of a requel of sorts. That's what it was called, to the 2003 Ang Lee film. Really, the only through line there was that the 2003 movie ended in South America and The Incredible Hulk picked up in South America, where Bruce Banner was on the run from the government. It's a shame that The Incredible Hulk never got a sequel. You may know that Universal holds the distribution rights still for the character, although they should be expiring here within the next few years so that Marvel can get those back and release a proper sequel. And it should absolutely star Mark Ruffalo, who has made the character such a beloved figure across the Avengers films. They weren't really able to continue the story of the Hulk in his own film, but through the wider MCU, we've kind of gotten a continuation of his overall story.
Right, but those aren't necessarily sequels to The Incredible Hulk. And yeah, I agree. I think he definitely deserves a sequel because the Hulk is actually one of the few Marvel characters that I like.
Well, I don't like any DC characters, but you're right. The Hulk is such a multifaceted character. You can go so many different directions with him. You know, they kind of did the Bruce Jones run with the Incredible Hulk, and then they kind of went down the route of Planet Hulk with the Thor Ragnarok movie. So it would be cool to see them do something else, like maybe the Immortal Hulk in his own film.
I know you like a DC character.
Not a one. Not a single one. Watch this. Name a DC character.
Hawkman.
Don't like him.
Really? Ragman.
Nope, dude sucks.
You don't even know who Ragman is.
Exactly. That should tell you something. Anyway, great answer, Jacob Bell. Cornelius Robinson also gave the same answer of the Incredible Hulk. So thanks for calling in.
Our next honorable mention goes to Logan Schroeder, who said,
Hey guys, Logan Schroeder here. I know this isn't exactly a common answer, but I'm going to say the 2003 Daredevil movie. The biggest problem that I had with that movie was the character development, and in a sequel they can do a lot more character development. And we don't really need a new sequel now with the Daredevil Netflix show and the upcoming Daredevil Born Again MCU film. But if we would have had one in 2005 instead of the horrible Elektra film, I think it would have been great.
Yeah, Logan's right. We definitely don't need a sequel to the 2003 Daredevil movie now, but back in the day, it would have been nice to have, because after Ben Affleck's 2003 Daredevil movie came out, we got a quasi-sequel in Elektra, but it didn't have the Matt Murdock character outside of a deleted scene or, the R-rated director's cut, depending on which version you got. So, yeah, I think this is a great answer. Of course, the 2003 Daredevil movie wasn't great. It was pretty sophomoric on behalf of the director, Mark Steven Johnson, but it did have its qualities, I'll say.
Yeah, I didn't hate the movie when I first saw it in high school. That said, on subsequent viewings, especially recently, I've realized just how bad the movie was. And it just makes me think, was I an idiot in high school?
Yeah, we both were.
I probably was.
Comic book movies have gotten much better since then, for the most part. So thanks to Logan Schroeder for that answer. Our last honorable mention goes to Noah Terry, who said,
Hey guys, and if I had to pick a Marvel or DC movie to get a sequel, I would have to say Green Lantern, because I would say that the fans deserved so much better than what we got, and if they could make a sequel and fix their mistakes, we might finally get a good version of Green Lantern in live action. So, Green Lantern, that's my answer. Thanks. Bye, guys.
Yeah, the 2011 Green Lantern film starring Ryan Reynolds is not a great movie. And it's another one that I didn't hate when it came out. I think just because I was so overhyped for a Green Lantern movie that I just couldn't fathom it being bad. And I think I kind of rejected the notion emotionally for some time after it came out.
Well, like the Daredevil movie, it did have its own qualities as well. But overall, not good.
Yeah, no, not a good movie. It could have been much better, which is, I think, why I like this answer of it getting a sequel. Because as Kevin Feige has shown us, even if something is poorly received by fans, there's always an opportunity to correct course in a sequel. And I think you could have totally done that in a Green Lantern film with the Sinestro Corps, maybe Blackest Night after that. That would have been amazing.
The main reason I don't love this answer is because if we did get a sequel to Green Lantern starring Ryan Reynolds, it's likely that a few years later he wouldn't have become Deadpool. And we can't have that. So maybe if it was a Green Lantern sequel with a different Green Lantern, like Jon Stewart or Kyle Rayner or something like that.
I'll take that.
Yeah,
that's a good idea. I think that would be even more of a palate cleanser.
Yeah,
I think that'd be great.
Thanks to Noah Terry for that answer. Benjamin Ryan also gave the same answer. We also want to give a big thanks to Landon Parker, Corey Wooten, and Miggy Matanguihan for their answers, for taking the time to call into our website. But the winner of this week's No Prize goes to Scotty Macho, who said,
no question, the movie that deserves a sequel is Zack Snyder's Justice League. That man had great ideas for what the DC universe was going. I wish I could have seen it go to fruition. If you ask me, Zack Snyder should have been head of DC Studios. But if you ask me for which film deserves that sequel, Zack Snyder's Justice League.
And of course, this is the answer of all answers. It is the answer that has the Twitter sphere still up in arms defending Zack Snyder and his vision. Because ever since the release of Zack Snyder's Justice League last year, we've seen that his vision was actually much better than what we got in theaters. So yeah, I would love to see a sequel to Zack Snyder's Justice League. And actually, people hate on Snyder fans, and the studio, is kind of sick of them. But if you ever want them to go away, how about you make a sequel and give that story a proper ending? Because then they'll never want another one, because they'll just be so satisfied, I think, with that, yeah, they'll be ready to move on from it.
I don't know. I mean, wasn't Zack Snyder's Justice League a proper ending in itself?
No way. It totally set up so many other storylines. You think teasing Darkseid is a conclusion to a story?
I mean, sure, why not? I mean, that guy doesn't do anything anyway. He just stands there with his arms behind his back.
And then kills you with his arms behind his back like a badass.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good answer. Fortunately, we will be seeing, cameos from the Justice League cast appear in upcoming DC movies, not to mention films like Aquaman and The Flash, where these characters are still headlining their own films.
Right, but to see a team-up film is something that I think people will want to see forever. It's going to be really hard for Warner Brothers to escape that.
Not after the success of the Avengers, because people want to see these characters interact in interconnected films, crossovers.
So yeah, congrats to Scotty Macho for winning this week's No Prize. If you, the listener, want a shot at winning your own No Prize, stay tuned to later on in this episode when we'll be asking another question of the week.
And now that that's done,
on to the news. Okay, so last week, The Hollywood Reporter came out with a business news article that didn't shine Warner Brothers Discovery in the most positive of lights, explaining that the company is loaded with debt and it's having a really hard time finding a head for its new DC studios because no one wants the job.
No, nobody wants that job.
Not because it's DC, but because whoever gets the job will inevitably be compared to Kevin Feige, whose Marvel Cinematic Universe is already in Phase 4. So DC is behind, and no one wants to be compared to Kevin Feige, who may arguably be the best producer in history.
I think people already know that DC will never be able to compete with Marvel.
I mean, I don't know that. I still have the offer on the table. My offer is still on the table. David Zaslav, I will do this job. I can do this job. I already have a 10-year plan. I have it written out. I will show it to you.
How often have you had these delusions of grandeur?
My whole life. I can do it. But during the last Investor Day that Warner Brothers Discovery had, David Zaslav came out and really showed a lot of confidence in DC and for this 10-year plan that they said that they were going to develop. And here we are a couple of months later, and nothing has really come to fruition. And their stock price shows that. Their stock price is the lowest it's ever been in like 5 years, which isn't speaking too highly to David Zaslav's leadership ability. Zaslav, I think you're a great leader. Again, please hire me. Right now, a lot of insiders say that David Zaslav may not be able to find this head of DC Studios. So in the meantime, Michael DeLuca and Pam Abdi, who are the co-heads of Warner Brothers Pictures, are kind of shepherding the DC movie slate for the time being. They're the ones that greenlit Constantine 2. And they're not bad at the job, I don't think. DeLuca actually was the producer of the first Blade movie. And back when he worked for New Line, he tried to get them to make an Iron Man movie long before Paramount ever did.
Right, but the head of New Line didn't think it was a believable concept and that Iron Man would be too heavy to fly, so they just kind of like nixed the project, which is so damn dumb.
Yeah, but DeLuca is a comic book fan, which is nice. And again, we've stated multiple times that that should be the number one prerequisite for whoever takes over as the head of DC Films. Now, according to this article, it looks like David Zaslav may not even need to hire a new head of DC because in less than 2 years' time, in 2024, there are big rumors that Warner Brothers is going to sell to NBCUniversal, which would make Universal the new parent company of DC Comics.
And Warner Brothers, similar to the way that Disney acquired 20th Century Fox.
Right, exactly. Now, I think that the Universal and Warner Brothers merger would be massive. It would be so huge. They would have so many IP properties. It would be unbelievably competitive with Disney. Really, I think it's the only option right now for any studio to be able to compete with Disney. So I don't mind it, but it kind of looks like David Zaslav is kind of holding his ground on pursuing any kind of future DC universe or plan until that merger takes place, and he doesn't have to deal with it anymore, essentially. He received a ton of backlash for canceling Batgirl, and it was probably honestly a smart move if that movie was going to be terrible. But I think he's gotten enough ire over that decision that he's kind of just washed his hands of DC. That's the vibe that I get. He's just kind of like, just let Universal deal with it later.
It doesn't leave me with the best impression of David Zaslav, considering that he's the one that like fucked up and then is like, Well, screw it then.
Is it a fuck up? We don't know. It could have been a good decision.
If the movie was bad.
I mean, why make another DC movie that fans and critics are just going to shit on?
We don't know that was the case, though, because the movie never finished post-production. He was basing everything off of these unfinished scenes, essentially.
Well, there's been enough people that agreed with him saying it was a bad movie that I tend to believe that.
It's interesting, though, because this NBC Universal purchase of Warner Brothers can't even happen until April of 2024, which means, we have almost 2 years to wait till then, and then for everything to get processed, approved by the U.S. government, put into action, and then completed. This merger is not going to take place for another 5 or 6 years or so. That's how long it took the Disney-Fox merger to happen. But, they still need to release DC films in the meantime, so what's going to happen then?
Well, apparently, The Rock is coming to the rescue. Because rumors are currently that he managed to get Henry Cavill to return for a cameo as Superman in the Black Adam film. He also managed to get Gal Gadot to cameo in his Shazam film, which, The Rock is producing. With Ben Affleck doing another cameo for Aquaman, it kind of seems that the DCEU's Justice League isn't going away anytime soon. And rumors are currently that The Rock has pitched Warner Brothers on doing a Black Adam sequel where he takes on the entire Justice League.
That's weird.
We might get to see the Justice League again. That's best case scenario, mind you. If that falls through, I guess the sequel idea would be that the Suicide Squad gets to go up against Black Adam, which could totally work because he already has Amanda Waller in this first Black Adam movie.
Wait. Where have you heard this? Where is this news coming from? It sounds like fan speculation or something.
This is coming from anonymous sources, according to YouTube scooper Grace Randolph, who has been, fairly consistent with her scoops.
So this would be a sequel to Black Adam, either Black Adam versus the Justice League or Black Adam versus Suicide Squad?
Yes.
What about the Shazam family?
I mean, you'd have to think that was also up for consideration.
You would hope so.
Absolutely. And, The Rock has a lot of strings that he can pull in Hollywood to make this happen.
It sounds like he's just trying to save his own kind of career within the DC brand in lead up to this potential DC reboot that David Zaslav wants to do.
Well, I mean, if they're not doing anything else with the DC films, at least in the DCEU, then yeah, why not let The Rock make these awesome blockbusters? Because he has really good ideas. He knows what the fans want.
I think that's still to be determined depending on how Black Adam performs.
Yes, that's very true. I mean, if anyone wants to see The Rock build out his version of the DC universe with Henry Cavill as Superman, because The Rock's ex-wife is Henry Cavill's agent, then it's really important that Black Adam is a good movie and that a lot of people see it.
I don't know how much I believe this news, but it would definitely be interesting. I'll say that no one has quite promoted a DC project like The Rock has. He even got fan artist Boss Logic to do the promo art during the DC fandom all those years ago. So, if the DC film universe is put into The Rock's hands, things could be worse, I'll say.
It's kind of weird, though, because all this talk about how the hierarchy of DC is going to change, I didn't know that he was talking about behind the scenes, He's like, I'm going to make all these movies for you guys.
But in regards to this potential news about The Rock and his Black Adam 2 ideas, that brings us to our question of the week.
In the Black Adam sequel, would you rather see Black Adam go against the Suicide Squad, the Justice League, or the Shazam family, and why?
Record your answer at dynamicduel.com by clicking on the red microphone button in the bottom right-hand corner, which will prompt you to leave us a voicemail. Your message can be up to 30 seconds long, and don't forget to leave your name in case we include you on the podcast. We'll pick our favorite answer and award that person a Dynamic Duel No Prize that we'll post to Instagram. Be sure to answer before October 1st. But I think that does it for all the news for this episode, so let's go ahead and get into our main event where we find out who would win in a fight between Aquaman's sidekick Aqualad and Black Panther's sister, Shuri. Alright, Aqualad versus Shuri. Of course, this duel matchup is in lead up to our next episode, which will be our 300th episode of this podcast, in which we find out who would win in a fight between the teams of Young Justice and Young Avengers. It's a big deal. It's going to be a lot of fun. Of course, Aqualad is a prominent member of Young Justice.
In the cartoon, at least.
I think in the comics, the original Aqualad Garth was a member of the team. I'm not sure.
He was a member of the Teen Titans. Actually, Aqualad, this version, Jackson Hyde, was a member of Young Justice for like one adventure, but he is a prominent member of the team in the animated series. So he was chosen by our executive producers to be a member of Young Justice for that team Duel. And of course, we're pitting him against Shuri, who looks like will be the protagonist of the upcoming Black Panther sequel, Wakanda Forever.
Right, yeah. Shuri has a whole lot of different powers. Of course, she was a Black Panther herself in the comics when T'Challa was in a coma and Wakanda needed somebody to take up the mantle. I think it is highly speculated that Shuri will be taking up the mantle of Black Panther in the sequel, but we don't know that yet. You know, she's kind of a technological marvel, but recently in the comics, she's developed a lot of mystic spiritual-based power. So it'll be interesting putting that varied power set against Aqualad's power set, who basically has magic hydrokinesis, right?
It's not magic. In the Young Justice animated series, it is. He's a practitioner of Atlantean sorcery, but in the comics, he is a Zebelian hybrid. You know Mara, how she's the princess of Zebel? Well, he has some of their blood, so he has hydrokinesis as well.
Oh, well, you know, same effect, regardless. I think one of the reasons we ended up going with this matchup was that we were inspired by the upcoming Wakanda Forever movie in which the Wakandans battle against the Atlanteans. And of course, that was a war that was taken from the comics. So let's go ahead and find out who'll win. If you've never listened to one of our Duel episodes before, the way we determine a winner between these two characters is by running 1,000 Monte Carlo simulations using their statistics. A Monte Carlo simulation is a probabilistic model used to determine outcomes through random sampling.
And in our case, it randomizes statistics along a normal distribution, which is a bell curve, as a way to simulate the many variables that can occur during battle. The stat parameters we use are based on the official Marvel power grid, and we use that criteria to extrapolate the DC character stats. We've included some additional stat categories of our own, such as range, damage potential, versatility, and perception, in order to create a more complete and robust simulation.
Running these 1,000 simulations gives us a percentage of wins for each character, and we declare the one with the higher percentage to be the ultimate victor, considering that they're more likely to win any given battle. No character ever wins 100% of the time. Comics have shown that there's usually a way for Batman to defeat Superman, and we feel our method falls in line with the precedents that have been established in the comic book stories.
And we use this method because it was the least subjective, most unbiased way to determine who would win. Of course, we are both heavily biased toward our respective allegiances, so instead of debating these matches forever, we just let the math decide for us. There are no fan votes here, and no relying on just feats.
Before we run the simulations, though, we like to break down each character's histories and abilities before improvising a scenario on how we imagine one of the 1,000 simulations would play out beat for beat. And I think it's my turn to go first with the Marvel character for this episode, so let me go ahead and tell you all about Black Panther's sister, Shuri. Shuri is the younger sister of the Black Panther, T'Challa, and the daughter of former King T'Chaka and Queen Ramonda of Wakanda. The history of T'Challa and the country of Wakanda is touched upon in our Black Manta vs. Black Panther duel episode, where I explain how the vibranium meteor that crashed into the heart of Africa in mankind's early history gave rise to the Wakandan nation and the legacy of Black Panther, the king and protector of Wakanda. When Shuri was still just an infant, her father King T'Chaka was murdered by an assassin named Ulysses Claw on behalf of American and European leaders who sought to pressure Wakanda into sharing their resources. The mantle of Black Panther was then passed on to Shuri's uncle Sayan, who served in the role until both T'Challa and Shuri felt they were old and strong enough to earn the title. Because although the role of Black Panther had been passed down her family line for ages, one still had to earn the title by passing a series of tests. The tests were so arduous, though, that only one trained from childhood could hope to qualify. And to ensure the mantle was held by only the worthy, Wakanda had an annual tradition where any citizen could challenge the Black Panther for the throne by beating the king in hand-to-hand combat. From an early age, Shuri longed for the mantle of Black Panther so she could become the first woman to bear the title. She trained her mind and body to one day become worthy of the role and decided to compete as a teenager in the annual tradition. Before she could make it to the ring, however, she was knocked down by another contender, leading her brother T'Challa to compete before her and claim the throne. When Wakanda was later invaded by Klaw with a small army of villains, Shuri helped her new king brother defend their nation, and she used the ebony blade taken from the Black Knight to rupture the radioactive man. For her bravery, T'Challa continued Shuri's combat training so she could take his Black Panther mantle should anything ever happen to him. When Wakanda was attacked by Eric Killmonger, who was secretly working with America, Shuri stood by her brother in defense of the nation but was unfortunately captured. After fighting and defeating a group of Killmonger's men, she escaped her imprisonment. Later, on behalf of T'Challa, she led the Wakandan army against the Skrull alien race to fend off their secret invasion of Earth as her brother, Black Panther, took down the Skrull commander, Kavur. After that battle, Dr. Doom blew up T'Challa's Wakandan aircraft and put the hero into a coma. As the Queen of Wakanda at the time, the X-Men member Storm nominated Shuri as T'Challa's successor to the Black Panther mantle. You can learn more about Storm in our Black Lightning vs. Storm Duel episode. After Shuri passed the trials for the role, she completed the ritual by ingesting the heart-shaped herb that granted Black Panthers their enhanced physicality and their connection to the Panther goddess Bast and her ancestral plane. However, Bast did not initially see Shuri as worthy to the title due to her secret jealousy of her brother and her hubris, rejecting Shuri as the next Black Panther. In spite of this, without the physical enhancements, Shuri donned the Black Panther outfit and saved Wakanda from the villain Morlun, risking her life in the process. This earned her Bast's blessing as worthy of receiving Black Panther's abilities, and she became the defender of Wakanda as her brother healed. As the new Black Panther, Shuri teamed up with Storm, the Fantastic Four, War Machine, and Photon to help stop an invasion from Dr. Doom, who planned to conquer Wakanda and steal its vibranium for himself. Shuri agreed to T'Challa's plan to use a device to render all processed vibranium on the planet inert, stopping Dr. Doom's plan. You can learn more about this in our Superman vs. Dr. Doom episode. Later, Wakanda was used as the home base of the Avengers, who were quarreling with the X-Men over how to handle the approaching Phoenix Force. When Namor the Submariner acquired a portion of the Phoenix's power, he flooded and destroyed much of Wakanda's capital city. This act, which you can learn more about in our Aquaman vs. Submariner episode, led Shuri to declare war on Namor's underwater kingdom, Atlantis. The devastating effects of that war led to the Submariner telling the Mad Titan Thanos that an Infinity Gem he was searching for was in Wakanda, and Shuri died trying to hold back Thanos' henchwoman Proxima Midnight, buying her brother T'Challa time to escape Thanos' attack.
Oh, damn.
Eventually, after Thanos' assault, the nation of Wakanda was restored to its former glory, though King T'Challa missed his departed sister Shuri. Because she had taken the heart-shaped herb, though, her spirit resided in the ancestral realm, where she received spiritual training and a vast lesson in Wakandan history and lore, seeing the memories of her entire people. Shuri's spirit was retrieved and brought back to the physical plane when T'Challa used a device he created in conjunction with a teleporting mutant named Manifold. Imbued with new wisdom and powers, Shuri helped her brother quell a rebellion and establish a new Wakandan council where she ensured the entire nation was represented in governmental affairs. Now, as the foremost Wakandan scientist and keeper of its entire history, she is referred to as the Aja Adana, the ancient future. And that's her backstory. Powers-wise, Shuri has the enhanced physiology and senses of a Black Panther, granted to her by the Wakandan herb that increases her strength, speed, durability, agility, etc. to just above peak human potential. Shuri has trained her entire life in martial arts by the Dora Milaje Guard, who are considered some of the Earth's greatest fighters, and she also trained with the greatest warriors in Wakandan history while on the ancestral plane. She is gifted in military tactics and political diplomacy, having served as Wakanda's ruler for a time. She also has a genius-level intellect on par with her brother and is the foremost mind on Wakandan science, technology, and history. As a gifted inventor, she has created multiple gadgets for fighting, including a pair of energy blasters worn on her hands in the shape of panther heads, a set of retractable vibranium wings, an energy-firing spear, EMP explosives, chemical explosives, stun grenades, and holographic emitters. She employed many of these gadgets during her time as Black Panther, though after coming back to the physical realm from the ancestral plane, she now prefers to wield the powers granted to her by the spirits of Wakanda's past, including, but not limited to, anamorphism, which lets her transform into a black bird or flock of birds, an organic stone form, which grants her added strength and durability, size alteration to about 3 times her normal height,
What?
and a sort of spiritual psychic ability, which lets her communicate with the souls of Wakanda's deceased and reanimate their corpses temporarily for a necromantic-like effect, though that takes a lot out of her.
Yo, what? What the hell is all of this?
Yeah, between the technology and like the spiritual ability she has, she kind of has the most random assortment of powers that I've ever seen a Marvel character have.
I feel like the writers just don't know what to do with her.
Yeah, because for a while after the Black Panther movie came out, they wanted to take her down this like technology route, but I think that kind of space is owned by Riri Williams, who's known as Ironheart. So they brought Shuri back as kind of like this more spiritual type hero with the powers of her ancestors. But yeah, she kind of exists as this futuristic technologist, spiritual fighter.
Well, okay then. Let's see how this goes. Can't quite say I see too many correlations between her history and the history of Jackson Hyde, Aqualad, but let me give you his backstory. When David Hyde, aka Black Manta, and his pregnant wife explored the Bermuda Triangle, they found the portal to the extra-dimensional Atlantean penal colony of Zebul, where they were captured by Zebelian soldiers and tortured. The stress of the torture caused Black Manta's wife to give birth before she died. The baby was named Calder Am and was experimented on and turned into a Zebelian hybrid after Zebul's king determined that Calder, as an outsider born in Zebul, could serve as a living key for his people to escape their prison and get revenge on Atlantis. The Princess Mera, who you can learn more about in our Mera vs. Invisible Woman Duel episode, took pity on the baby, however, and stole him from her people, escaping from Zebul with Calder so that they can no longer experiment on and use him. Giving Calder to a couple she met on the beach, Mera also left them with a locked chest that Calder would be able to open when he came of age and his Zebelian powers over water manifested. Named Jackson by his adoptive parents, they moved to the New Mexican desert, and Jackson was taught to be afraid of water and never learned to swim. At age 15, during a rainstorm, Jackson's powers manifested, at which point his adoptive father revealed to Jackson that he really came from the sea. Before Jackson could open the chest that Mera had given him, he was attacked by Black Manta, who had sided with Mera's sister, Siren, leader of the Zebelian army, who needed Jackson to unleash her forces on the world. Aquaman, who you can learn more about in his duel episode against Namor the Submariner, rescued Jackson and his adoptive father, and together they learned that the chest contained a map, which led them to a secret cave where Mera left a recording explaining Jackson's origins, along with the suit of a Zebelian soldier and 2 water-bearer handles that would allow Jackson to focus his innate ability to control water and shape it into weapons. Fighting alongside Aquaman to stop the Zebelian invasion, Jackson fought both Siren and his father Black Manta, the latter of whom revealed that neither Jackson nor his biological mother ever meant anything to him. With Mera's help, Jackson was able to seal Black Manta, Siren, and her army back in Zebul. While training in Atlantis, Jackson adopted the name of Aqualad and was recommended to the Titans team by Aquaman. Aqualad never joined the Titans, however, as the Flashpoint event rebooted DC continuity, as well as Jackson's history. In this new timeline, Jackson's mother was a Zebelian named Lucia, who was seduced by Black Manta after he discovered Zebul in the Bermuda Triangle and used her to find a map to a powerful Atlantean artifact known as the Black Pearl. When the pregnant Lucia learned that Black Manta planned on using the Black Pearl for destruction, she fled with the map, which she put in a necklace and made a life for herself and her son, Jackson, in New Mexico. In order to protect her son from his father, Lucia never taught Jackson about Black Manta or his own heritage, though Jackson did become aware of his powers at a young age, keeping them hidden out of respect for his mother's wishes. That changed when Jackson, now a teenager, made the decision to reveal his superpowers to his boyfriend Kenny, who immediately rejected him afterward. Hurt by Kenny and his mother Lucia, who disapproved of his alternative lifestyle because it could draw more attention to himself, Jackson decided to leave New Mexico in secret and join the Teen Titans, who he helped defeat King Shark. Gifted by the team with Atlantean water-bearer weapons, Jackson was located by Lucia, who explained both his parentage and heritage to him, along with the reveal that his necklace contained the map of the Black Pearl. Attacked by Black Manta soon after, Jackson was forced to accompany his father as they followed the map to the Black Pearl. Realizing his father was using him, Jackson attacked Black Manta, who easily defeated his son thanks to the magic of the Black Pearl. With the help of the Teen Titans, Jackson was able to defeat his father and afterward was dubbed Aqualad by Aquaman's former sidekick, now called Tempest. After Jackson defeated a villain known as the Electrocutioner, who attacked him as a test from Black Manta, Jackson was visited by his father for help with a secret mission, which Jackson reluctantly agreed to join. The two bonded, though Jackson realized that Black Manta had intended on killing his stepfather. When Jackson intervened, the two fought, and though Black Manta got the upper hand, he couldn't go through with killing his own son. Wishing to truly become Aquaman's sidekick, Jackson moved to Amnesty Bay, where he joined Aquaman's side in protecting the town from threats that included his father. Lucia eventually joined him there and began taking care of Aquaman and Mera's newborn daughter, Andrina. When Andrina was kidnapped by Ocean Master, Jackson struck a deal with Black Manta to help rescue her in exchange for a favor. Black Manta eventually called in that favor and made Jackson visit Zebul, where Jackson was to plant a device that would allow Black Manta to infiltrate the dimension. While there, Jackson met a Zebelian warrior named Hawea, whom he helped defend Zebul from the trench sea monsters and whom he developed feelings for, leading him to betray Black Manta. While training in Atlantis under Aquaman, a villain named Deluge framed Jackson for detonating bombs across the underwater city. It was revealed that Deluge was Jackson's older half-sister, Delilah, who was a member of the Zebelian Liberation Front, a terrorist group that opposed the Zebelian monarchy and the planned reunification between Zebul and Atlantis. Adopting the mantle and authority of Aquaman, Jackson managed to stop the XLF, whose attack left his mother comatose. Sharing the mantle of Aquaman with King Orin of Atlantis, the two of them teamed up with Black Manta to stop Atlantean sleeper agents around the world that were controlled by Ocean Master. With Mera's help, Jackson created a tower made of water in the middle of the ocean that emitted a transmission from Black Manta that deactivated the sleeper agents, though not before one of them managed to kill the entire Atlantean Council in a suicide bombing. Jackson and Black Manta rescued many Atlanteans from the rubble, during which time Black Manta apologized to Jackson and promised to always have his sons back. When the Justice League were seemingly killed, Jackson took his mentor's place on the team for a time before Black Adam took control of the team and Jackson left, returning to Atlantis as its protector. And that's his history. Powers and abilities wise, Jackson, who I'm referring to as Aqualad for this match, is an Atlantean human hybrid who possesses all of the benefits of an Atlantean physiology, including enhanced strength, durability, and senses, as well as the ability to breathe underwater. As a Zebelian, he bears tattoo-like birthmarks that signify not only a limited degree of telekinetic control over water, but also the ability to generate electricity, which he can channel through water.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, like an electric eel. For missions away from water, Aqualad also carries a water tank backpack that also stores his two-handle weapons known as water bearers that help him focus and anchor his control over water into water construct weapons. He's also a skilled and trained fighter, having trained with both Robin on the Teen Titans and Aquaman in Atlantis. And that's Aqualad.
He actually seems pretty cool. Doesn't Tempest also have hydrokinesis as well?
Yeah, Tempest, Aquaman's original sidekick who kind of grew into a new role, kind of like Robin turned into Nightwing. He does have hydrokinesis. He can also alter the temperature of water. He's just a sorcerer all around, an Atlantean sorcerer now.
Okay. Yeah, eventually we'll get to a duel episode with Tempest, but considering Aqualad will be in the upcoming Young Justice versus Young Avengers team duel, I'm excited to speculate on how he'll fight in this match. Definitely a less complicated power set than Shuri, for sure.
For sure. But now that we've got their histories and abilities out of the way, let's speculate on how one of the 1,000 simulated matches will go. The winner is determined by simulations, not the speculation, but it's fun to imagine how this fight could play out.
We don't set any rules for this match other than the characters don't know anything about each other going in, except that the other character is a threat that needs to be put down. And we say they start off about 50 meters apart in an environment that has no bearing on the match itself, because we don't take stats for the environment.
Plus, certain characters have advantages in some environments over others, and we want these characters to win on their own merit. So let's get into it. Aqualad and Shuri meet on the battlefield. Who goes first? So obviously, I'm going to say that Aqualad is going to start by telekinetically pulling water out of his backpack bladder reservoir thing, and he's going to construct 2 long scimitar blades from his water bearer handles. And then he's just going to charge Shuri, blades drawn.
Well, how much water can this camelback thing that he wears hold? Like a gallon? 2 gallons?
Enough to make badass weapons, you know?
All right. Well, as Shuri sees him coming at her, she's going to activate the technological vibranium panther gauntlets that she's wearing on her hands. And she's just going to fire the series of sonic blasts right at Aqualad, which is going to drop him to his knees right as he's approaching her. And then she's going to straight up punch him right in his dome piece with one of the gauntlets. And these things are like vibranium, so they hurt.
No, because like as he dropped to his knees to protect himself from those sonic blasts, he transforms one of his blades into a water shield, which also protects him from her punch, okay? So after he blocks, he's just going to expertly follow up with a series of slashes from his other blade that's just like going to cut through and dismantle Shuri's panther gauntlets.
I'm calling bullshit. The gauntlets are vibranium. Like, you can't cut them with water.
It's really sharp water.
No. Fuck that.
Fine, then he's going to slash her arms off then above the gauntlets.
Whoa.
And they just drop to the ground. Now she's armless. Are you happy?
No. Okay, so the gauntlets drop to the floor, but not because her arms were cut off, but because as they were about to get cut off, all of a sudden they turned into a flock of blackbirds, followed by the rest of her body. Her whole body just turns into a bunch of blackbirds. And then the birds are going to swarm around Aqualad to the other side of him and reform back into Shuri's human form behind Aqualad. And then she's going to pull out one of the Kimoyo beads from her bracelet, and it's going to extend into a short spear. And she's going to run that thing right through Aqualad, impaling him.
So she could like teleport with this bird flock form.
Yeah, turn into birds in one spot, reform back into Shuri in another spot.
Okay, well, you mentioned that she made a spear and that he gets impaled, but I'm saying no way, because Aqualad was trained in sword fighting by Damian Wayne and in Atlantis, so he's just going to block her attack and counter with his own slashes.
Well, Shuri was trained by the Dora Milaje and all the ancient warriors of Wakanda, so like she counters his counter with her own counter, and the two start just like, weapons fighting like a pair of martial arts badasses.
Okay, that's cool. But it's not going to happen for long, because Aqualad, he's going to transform both of his water swords into water whips. All right, so he's going to wrap one of those whips around her spear and just yank it away. Meanwhile, the other whip, it's going to wrap around her neck, and he's just going to send this surge of electricity through it to electrocute her.
Oh, damn, okay. So she's getting shocked, but she's going to quickly transform into her stone form. And stone doesn't conduct electricity, right? She's using that science mind of hers because she's now grounded, essentially. And
bizarre.
In her stone form, she's going to grow to like 3 times her size using her size alteration powers. And she's just going to like backhand the shit out of Aqualad with her stone hand.
So she's like the Thing meets Giant Man.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
So weird.
It's random.
I'm going to say, though, that like she probably moves super slow in this like heavy giant stone form, okay? So Aqualad's gonna dodge her attack by aiming his water bearers toward the ground and using them to emit a blast of water that's gonna launch him high into the air, like above Shuri, and then he's just gonna land on one of her shoulders and stab her in the neck with like a sharp water blade, which, yes, can cut through stone. This is not vibranium.
Oh, you knew what I was about to say, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so it can cut through stone. So stabbing her with a dagger probably hurts her. So she's going to grab him like this rag doll and just chuck him just away, like into the distance. And she's going to shrink back down to regular size and transform out of her stone form. She's going to have this gashing hole in her neck, but she's going to grab another one of her Kimoyo beads from her bracelet, and she'll stick it in the wound, kind of like how they did in the Black Panther movie when they wanted to stabilize Everett K. Ross's gunshot.
Oh, yeah.
So this prevents her from bleeding out, and she's going to throw down this hologram emitter that makes it look like there are 10 of her on the battlefield, and Aqualad doesn't know which one is the real her.
Okay, well, I mean, he's just going to use his hydrokinesis to hurl, like, all of these sharp water spikes in this wide arc at, like, all of the different Shuris that he sees in front of him, all right? And it's going to hit the real Shuri, like, in the thigh. So now he knows which one is the real one. That was completely pointless.
And she was like, not again. So she grabs another Kumayo bead and puts it in the wound in her thigh.
How many of those does she have?
I don't know, like a bracelet full. But then she's going to throw a handful of light grenades at him called the Desert Suns, which when they explode, they emit this bright light that just saps all the moisture from the area.
What?
Including the target's body. So it's just going to sap all the moisture from him. He's dehydrated as fuck now. And like his entire backpack reservoir is depleted. And he's just like this dying husk. And a match.
That is super convenient. Like, did she use that against Atlanteans?
She used it against Namor, actually, yeah.
Oh, perfect. Awesome. Of course she would have that.
Yep.
All right, okay. Atlanteans need water to survive.
We all need water to survive. Newsflash.
No, you know what I mean, all right? They, like, really need water. So, as he's dying, I'm going to say he's going to reach his hand out towards Shuri and pull the water from her body, dehydrating her.
Shit.
And now he's going to, like, form her body's water into this trident, all right? And he's going to telekinetically plunge that right into her, killing her before he dies.
Why didn't he just use the water he pulled from her body to rehydrate his body? She was going to die of dehydration anyway.
Because this is cooler?
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, what's the range of Aqualad's hydrokinesis?
Well, like, he was able to stop an entire tidal wave once.
Okay, that's pretty good. Well, either way, I'm going to say before Shuri dies from the dehydration or getting trident impaled or both, she's going to protract these vibranium wings from this wing pack she has strapped on, and she's going to fly up and out of range of his ability. And she's going to look down and just watch Aqualad die.
Well, I don't think you heard me. Like, he stopped a tidal wave before. Like, she's going to have to go really high into the sky to get out of his range.
Yeah, she can do that, and she could do it pretty fast, too, with her wing pack.
I'm going to say it's going to be really hard to think straight when you're freaking that dehydrated. Like, you're not going to be able to, like, know to pull out your wings.
Oh, but Aqualad can think straight enough to, make a trident?
Yes.
Shuri's a fast thinker. I think she just gets the heck out of there and lets the guy die.
I don't like it. That's not what happened.
Well, we could agree to disagree. We'll leave the match there at a stalemate. Either Aqualad dies of dehydration while Shuri's up in the air, or Shuri gets the water pulled out of her body and then she gets stabbed with that same water. We'll go ahead and leave the match there. We'll find out which of these two scenarios happens when we plug in the stats, run the simulations, and come back with a winner. All right, we're back. This is a pretty good matchup. The characters were pretty evenly matched on most of the categories. There was one glaring difference between the two, though. But let's break it down. We said they were about even when it comes to speed because Shuri can run really fast with like the speed of a cheetah, but Aqualad can swim really fast with like the speed of a dolphin.
Faster. Of course, I can't always assume that Aqualad will be in the water during these 1,000 matches, so I had to take that into account for a number of his stats.
Right.
Including range, which both of them evened out on.
Yeah, because Shuri has those Panther Vibranium Shockwave Blasters.
Yeah, when Aqualad is on land, his range is basically as far as he can blast water, which is probably pretty far considering he's strong. We also said that they evened out when it came to fighting skill because they're both highly trained, as well as perception because they both have enhanced senses.
Apparently the physiology of an Atlantean is better than that of a Black Panther because Aqualad not only has better durability stats than Shuri, he's also physically stronger.
The biggest difference between the two came down to intelligence, unfortunately. Aqualad is pretty average when it comes to intelligence compared to Shuri, who's like a super genius.
Yeah, she knows all the things, not only when it comes to science and technology, but also history of the nation of Wakanda. She is like the foremost authority in the entire world, considering how much she learned while she was on the ancestral plane. So all that considered, Jonathan, who's your money on for this match?
I really want to give this to Aqualad, and so do our Instagram followers, because 58% of them voted in favor of Aqualad.
Well, let's see if you all get what you want. The winner in this matchup between Aqualad and Shuri is Shuri.
Damn it!
By a whopping 697%.
What?
Yeah, she won that many battles out of the 1,000 simulations. Aqualad only won 303 battles, or 30.3%.
It was the intelligence stat.
The disparity in the intelligence stat was pretty big, therefore implying that Shuri would more often than not use her wits to defeat Aqualad, considering that for the rest of the stats, they're largely comparable, or close to comparable.
Well, that's dumb.
And let this be a lesson to all the listeners. Stay in school, kids, because you never know when you might get into a fight and you might just have to outsmart them.
Yeah, or you could be like the cool kid with the glowing tattoos and like the cool water powers. I still think Aqualad is way cooler than Shuri. We need like a cool stat.
Why do Aqualad's arms light up when he uses his powers?
Because he's a badass?
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Well, I think Shuri's pretty cool. We'll see how cool she is in the mantle of Black Panther, if that's what's going to happen in the upcoming Wakanda Forever movie coming out in just over a month here.
Now I don't even want to watch it. I'm just going to be bitter the whole time anytime Shuri's on screen. Thanks for ruining the movie for me.
Well, that does it for this duel. Let us know what you guys thought about the results by writing to us at dynamicduelpodcast@gmail.com or by visiting us on Instagram or Twitter. You can find links to all of our accounts by checking out our show notes or visiting our website, dynamicduel.com.
And on our site, you could also find a link to our Patreon page, where we offer ad-free episodes of the show, bonus content including top 10 episodes and bloopers, and access to our Discord chat server. Again, check it out right after this episode at patreon.com/dynamicduel, which is linked in our show notes. Our lowest tier is only $2 a month. And just a quick tease, guys, in our next episode, episode 300, we will be unveiling another perk exclusive to our patrons.
Yeah, look forward to hearing about it next week for episode 300, where we find out who would win in a fight between Young Justice and the Young Avengers. I'm so excited. Can't wait for that. But that does it for this episode. We want to give a big thanks to our executive producers, Ken Johnson, John Starosky, Zachary Hepburn, Dustyn Balcom, Miggy Matanguihan, Brandon Estergard, Nathaniel Wagner, Levi Yeaton, Austin Wesolowski, Nick Abanto, and AJ Dunkerly for helping make this podcast possible.
Yeah, we'll talk to you guys next week. Up, and away.
True believers.